Welcome, everyone, to Talking Hoosier Baseball. The Indiana Baseball Hoosiers keep up their winning ways with the weekend series win over that team up north. The Hoosiers now stand 3-2 in the Big Ten Conference and an awesome 22-6 record overall. Let's recap the games for them this week. We lost a game to weather in the middle week of the week, as we have here lately. And for all us fans, let's start really hoping for some better weather so we can enjoy the BART for what it truly is. But game one Friday night against that team up north, the Hoosiers lost by a score of 4-2. That other team got a fortunate break by scoring 2 unearned runs in the ninth inning on an error with 2 outs to secure the win. The Hoosiers on the night were only able to muster 5 hits, with Logan Kalitha getting 2. A strong pitching performance by Jonathan Stever was not enough for the Hoosiers on Friday night. Stever went 8 innings, giving up 2 runs on 7 hits, walking 1 and striking out 7. Game 2 on Saturday was a very pivotal game. You hate to say a must-win when you're sitting at 22 or 20-6, but it was a big win because the Daubers were down a little bit with the way the Hoosiers lost, and IU bounced back in a huge way, winning 14-1. After falling behind early and having some shaky defense in the first couple of innings, the offense took over and dominated that other team. Kalitha, again, was strong with 3 hits. Ryan Feynman added 3 hits as well. Logan Sowers and Justin Walker added 2 hits. Feynman and Gorski went yard in the 3rd inning as the Hoosiers scored 6 total runs in the inning. IU put the game away with 4 runs in the 6th. Paulie Milto with another outstanding effort on the mound as he continues to be a bulldog on the weekend. Game 3 saw the Hoosiers, again, kick the ball around a little bit early and fall behind 5-1. However, the resilient Hoosiers got some solid relief pitching and timely hitting, and IU was able to win on a walk-off 2-run bomb by Logan Kalitha in the bottom of the 13th inning. Final score, IU 7, that other team 5. Cal Kruger and Matt Lloyd threw 8 scoreless innings, with Lloyd picking up the win in relief. The Hoosiers' offense totaled 14 hits on the game, multiple hit efforts, led by Scotty Bradley with 3 hits. Elijah Dunham, Walker, and Gorski also had big days. Bradley hit a towering home run to tie the game in the 7th inning. And then some outstanding defense, which we had been missing for most of the weekend. Defense was solid in the back half of the game and in extra innings, which allowed for Logan Kalitha to do his thing, and he does his thing well. And IU is 2-1 on the weekend, maintaining their ranking in several polls and headed in the right direction for postseason play. So it's time for our IU Hoosier highlights. And for me, the defense had been an issue somewhat. It doesn't show up in the stats, only 19 unearned runs on the season, but it seemed just like we were out of sync a little bit defensively. Cost us a couple Friday night games in some series. But after the 3rd inning on Sunday, the defense actually, I think, won the game for us. An outstanding play in center field by Kalitha, crashing up against the wall. A double steal that was thwarted by a nice throw by Matt Lloyd home. Feynman makes the tag, preventing an additional run. And then credit to Jeremy Houston, who has had his troubles at short, got reinstated into the game Sunday at short, and made a game-saving play deep in the hole to get IU out of trouble in extra innings. And so the highlight for me was something that I had not been happy with as a fan and thought was somewhat poor, seemed to turn into a strength, which has been the story of these Hoosiers finding ways to win. And so that is my Hoosier highlight. Josh and everyone, welcome to the show. We're going to go to Josh first. What is your Hoosier highlight for the week?
Just the great bounce back after what was really a gut punch to kick the weekend off. Especially for Justin Walker being from Lafayette, that had to absolutely kill him, and he didn't let it eat on him for the rest of the weekend. He bounced back Saturday and Sunday and was 4 for 9 with 4 RBI, 2 runs, cut down a runner at third base. On Saturday, on one of those, like a basketball reference would be that 6'10" guy pulling up on a fast break, shooting that 3, and it's no, and then, oh, right, it worked. So he cut that guy down at third in one of those moments and made 2 really good plays late. On the Sunday game, when Lloyd was pitching to keep those guys off base. and then also had a couple sacrifice hits. The one after Colby led off the 13th after we'd done nothing for 5 innings. He laid down a good bunt to get him into scoring position with 1 out, and Logan took care of it from there. But that was good to see. It didn't eat on him. And then what you were talking about, Brian, the resiliency. 3 times already this year we followed a loss up with a winning streak of at least 4 games. So we're halfway there to that with the bounce back on Saturday and Sunday. So hopefully they can keep the momentum going into this week.
Yeah, I like your comment about Walker. A little bothered by his errors over the weekend, but his bat came alive a little bit this weekend. He had some nice hits. I think he had 4 or 5 hits on the weekend. And you're absolutely correct, as you always are. But he made some nice plays during that stretch of extra innings at second base when he got moved to second base when Jeremy Houston came in and was part of that defensive effort that I was talking about in my highlight. And that's good to see. I think we're going to see a lot of Walker, and it was good for IU to back him up after Friday night's issue. And again, I think this team is solid. They pull for each other. They help each other. When one person has an outing that's not very good, I think this team is deep and has good leadership and picks people up. So
Absolutely.
That's good. Cassie, who's your highlight for the weekend?
Well, I was very tempted to go with Logan Kalitha's home run if for no other reason it ended the game and got me going on my 5.5-hour drive back home. Because, man, of course, the day that I'm trying to get back to Missouri is the day that it's going to go into extra innings. But the thing that stood out to me the most was Cal and Matty Lloyd from the bullpen on Sunday. That was just nuts. It was 8 scoreless innings. They gave up just 2 hits, no walks, no HBPs, 9 strikeouts, which was, if my math was right, I offer no guarantee this time around, 36% of the batters they faced struck out. That's nuts. I had him at 102 pitches combined in 8 innings, 69 of them for strikes for 68%. And 7 out of those 8 innings, they faced the minimum, thanks to the double play to erase a single. So while, those 102 pitches might be a little high, they were low-stress pitches, which helps so much. And Matty alone went 5 innings. He only had 6 on the season going into yesterday. He almost doubled his number of innings in a single game, and they both pitched phenomenally. So that was my highlight this week.
I will double up on Matt Lloyd. He hadn't pitched a lot of innings, and Cal has taken over that back end spot from Matt because we need him out on the field and offensively, and for him to come in and perform like he did, making some big time pitches, is an excellent highlight. And our bullpen is fantastic. In fact, there's been some national talk about great bullpens, and I don't think IU's getting the love that they deserve. There was some discussion in our little chat that we have, and I think that's pretty correct. Carl, who's your highlight for the weekend?
My Hoosier highlight, and I just switched this up too, so sorry to shock you guys too. I'm actually going with Jonathan Stevers' performance on Friday. Yes, it was in what we say is a losing effort, but he did not lose the game. 8 innings, only giving up 2 runs. The big deal there, though, was that baseball is a game where things happen one after another, and sometimes a thing that happens early in the week, even if it was in a loss, can impact what happens all the way on Sunday. The reason that Cal Kruger was available to go for 3 innings on Sunday was because he didn't have to work a ton on Friday, and a lot of that was because Stever was able to go as deep as he was, and was able to compete the whole time and put the team in a position to win. So I still think that was part of the week, and I don't want to have that be lost on what happened in the weekend.
I think Stever did a great job. I was a little concerned about his fastball when he gave up the home run to that big first baseman, because against Butler he gave up a lot of 2-out hits, and they were mostly on his fastball. And I think that he needed to mix things up a little bit better, and so I was worried might have been getting into a rut. And to his credit, after that inning where he gave up those 2 runs, he started mixing in his other pitches, and he had command of all of his pitches. And that's what he's going to need to do because, college hitters can hit fastballs if they know it's coming and it's a certain spot. And I think, that's an adjustment inside a game that sometimes we miss as fans that, their best player got him, but he was able to come back and he didn't have an effort. Although it wasn't a bad effort against Butler, he did get knocked around a little bit against Butler, and he came back and he made some adjustments in the next game. I think, Carl, that's a great highlight. Chris Feeney, your highlight for the week.
My highlight for the week will be ace number 2, Paulie Milto. We have a pair of aces. We don't just have one. I'll focus right on that first and second inning when there was all that trouble, bases loaded, 2 innings in a row. They only got 1 run. Okay, there was a little sloppy play, and some of it was Milto. There was a couple of walks or whatever, but that should not just give up 1 run. 2 innings in a row, that other team took the field upset, right? Because you load them up and you get 1. You load them up, you get nothing. And then from there, they got their 2 where we were down 2-1. No, we were down 1-0. We took the lead 2-1, and then it was it. Back-to-back home runs, and the game was over with the blowout. But those first 2 innings could have got a little hairy, and Milto held it down. He kept his calm. He threw the pitches he had to. He didn't try to overpower guys. We noticed like later on in the game, he didn't have a ton of Ks, which he had a few games earlier. He was pitching the way he needed to. He was pitching the way he had to. And he kept his cool, man. He kept his cool, and he got us through it, and it made the weekend.
Paulie does a nice job. I think Coach Lamona said that he didn't have his best stuff, and yet, he barely gives up any runs against that other team in a big performance after a tough Friday night loss. So, and then to come out and have some defensive lapses, some plays not go our way to load the bases, and you have
right
stressful
away,
innings right away,
right after what had happened Friday night.
So, hats off to Paulie for being that bulldog. And I'm going to go back to one of the first episodes of our show. And I think, Paulie's been a big favorite of mine for the past couple years, what he does on the mound. And boy, he turned the series around with his pitching performance on Saturday. And that's huge. All right. It's that time, folks, that everyone looks forward to. There's been a lot of conversation up at the rail about Limo hats. And so Feeney, after his trip to New York, had to get back in for Limos because Drew did such an outstanding job, and the love for Drew in the tailgate and around Bart Kaufman was immense. It put a lot of pressure on our friend Chris to come back with the great Limo hat session. So, Drew's watching. Drew's on the on-deck circle, and the pressure's yours. But who do you have this week, Feeney?
Well, first off, I'm glad I had another chance. I didn't get Wally Pip completely, but I am back in Bloomington. Had a great time, the whole thing. I'm glad I didn't miss this weekend. This was a fun weekend at the Bart. But as far as the Limo hats go, even I was flip-flopping, to be honest. I was talking to Carl about it at the Bart after one of the games ended. I think I was a little confused. My adrenaline was rushing a little bit after the walk-off home run. I don't think I actually realized what this pitcher did to earn this pitcher of the week Limo hat, the Joey Donato Award, Matt Lloyd. I didn't even realize he had pitched 5 innings, to be honest with you. I think I don't even think either one of us did. I think we were thinking it was like 3 or 4. The guy threw 5 innings and gave up 2 hits, no walks, 5 Ks. I hate to bring up my other team, the team I don't like to say performance, but it reminded me of Game 7 against the Red Sox, Rivera. You know what I mean? When he just kept going inning after inning after inning, and then finally, the walk-off, and I thought Lord was going to go out and fall down on the mound or something. It was wild. It was so impressive. Again, he was overpowering people. He was throwing what he needed to do. And that big at-bat with 2 outs and a guy on third, and the big boy was up, and he hit the shot to short, and Houston made the play. Matt Lloyd definitely earned the Limo hat of pitcher of the week. For the next 2 Limo hats, it's only one name. So I don't know how we're going to get fancy with this, but the defensive player of the week Limo hat, Logan Calatha. The offensive player of the week, Logan Calatha. So we got rid of that real quick. That play in center field, that catch was outstanding. And if you get a minute to watch it, look where he started. the ground he covered to get that baseball, and then he gives up his whole body to go get it. Like, that wasn't one of those, I'm going to get near the wall and kind of, nah. 100 miles an hour right into the wall. I'm going to hold on to this ball. So that was amazing. And then the next guy hit a ground rule double. And then the next guy, I think, got on. And then they pulled that little league play. So if he doesn't make that catch, the inning could have got worse. And they never scored again. So that's a huge catch by Kalitha. For the defensive player of the week, Tony Butler, Limo hat. And then for offensive, again, it's Logan Kalitha. I got it written down here. I think I remember it. It's like 6 hits, 5 runs, 4 RBIs, 2 walks. The only thing, I think he did leave one guy on for the weekend. And, he didn't get hit by any pitches. So we got to talk to this guy about this. It's a weapon that we count on. I don't know how he didn't get hit by a pitcher all weekend, but he did everything else. So he gets the Alec Dickerson offensive player of the week, Limo hat. And Kalitha, when is it going to stop? Like, I don't get it. I really don't. It's a highlight show every weekend. And I say we just keep rolling it out and just ride it. So there's your week 8 Limo hats, offensive, Logan Kalitha, defensive, Logan Kalitha, and pitching, Matt Lloyd.
I think the only thing Logan Kalitha didn't do was sell concessions on the weekend. and I tell you what, if he sold concessions, he'd have been able to throw those, Cracker Jacks like 3 sections over on the mark.
He'd be outstanding. He would be amazing.
He would be outstanding. I mean, he would be the best salesman ever.
I'm telling you. And the guy, and he's so polished, the interviews and everything, he's like a politician. Like, he's got to do something wrong at some point. I don't know. He's too perfect.
How do you, I thought about this today too. And for once, I'm in 100% agreement with your Limo awards. I think they're fantastic.
Wow.
I think you did a good job. And the pressure from Drew is showing because you just stepped up to the plate tremendously. Nice. But where does this kid Kalitha come from? My goodness, he's done so much.
I have no idea. It's incredible. I had to write about him again. And I swear it wasn't just to get the hits from the region. He earned it. This was an amazing weekend by him.
And then your Matt Lloyd, the emotion he showed on the mound is what I really, really like from a guy that is on my squad. And the ripping open the jersey to show his heart type of symbol and everything after a big play. Some people don't like that, and baseball has an etiquette. I say, what the heck? You did a great job. You deserve to do that. And, in fact, I think, under Kalitha's jersey is a Superman T-shirt I think he wears because that guy's great. Now, there were some awesome performances as well that didn't get the Limo hats. We're going to go straight to Cassie. She said she had a list of 8 possible people, so I don't know if the rest of us are going to get cheese hats. Cassie, just let it fly. It was a great weekend.
I can always just name one and then come back around to any that don't get named.
You drove 5.5 hours each way. You name as many cheese hats as your heart desires.
Well, one that I wasn't sure was going to be brought up was Scotty Bradley, because he tied the game with the solo shot, I believe, with 2 outs. If I remember correctly. Yeah, it was a 2-out home run. And that's bit. He doesn't do that. We don't go to extras. And, I mean, man, did he get trucked at first base. My word. He just got slammed. I was talking to him after the game, and I was like, it's a real good thing that you used to be a catcher, and so you've taken some of these hits before, because that was tough.
All right. I like it. Go again, Cassie.
Another one that I was kind of torn about looking at was Justin Walker defensively, because he really did rebound really well. Yeah, he did have 4 errors, and yes, 3 of them were painful, led to at least 1 run, but he was super impressive from the 8th to 10th inning yesterday. He made 5 really big plays, including, I believe, 4 consecutive outs in the 9th and 10th innings. And he really stepped up big, even when it meant changing from shortstop to second base in the middle of the game. That really, really impressed me.
Okay, so if you're looking for forgiveness out there in Hoosier baseball land, get a hold of Cassie. Because if she can forgive 4 errors, although I do see what you're saying, I kind of agree with that. We're going to give you one more, Cassie, because of your incredible work and your long drive You get one more cheese hat.
Okay, I'm gonna go. This was another one I was tempted to give Hoosier highlight to. Logan Sowers got his 200th hit. That's really big. I know that the kids were waiting for it all weekend so that they could hold up the sign, but that's huge, and that shows the level of talent and the level of skill he has had these 4 years, and the amount of time that he's put in to get better and better each year. So that was another thing that stood out to me.
Cassie obviously was thinking a lot on that 5.5-hour drive home, and it shows.
Oh, yeah.
Very good choices. Carl, any cheese hat contestants or recipients?
Cassie covered all of mine, so I'm good.
All right, we're going to go to Josh. You got any cheese hats?
Yeah, I'm going to give one to Kobar this week. He was thrust into an odd situation. Played 3 games at third base and filled in pretty well. I also had 3 sacrifice hits, had a walk, an RBI, a run, hit by pitch. So just him for stepping up, being ready to fill in that role. That was good to see.
I'm going to give one to Ryan Feynman. The guy continues to rake. He had a really big home run. It was 2-1. That was a momentum shifter. And then Gorski comes back and hits one as well. You could give one to them. And my stats are just out of my reach, so I can't. But the bench guys seem to come on and get some hits in the 14-1 game. And I really like our depth. So shout out to those guys as well. So those are our Limo hats and cheese hats. Excellent job this week. Great job of being resilient, which might be the word of the year for IUBase.com. I think it really speaks. The team's more resilient than some of the fans, including me. You get a little down on Friday night losing to that team up north, and then you don't play well to start the game, and you get a little nervous, and boy, the team rescued the fans. So hopefully we can rescue the players sometimes at the BART, but the players really rescued us, and that's a credit to their toughness. So we're going to do a real brief segment here, trying to mix things up a little bit. We're going to call this segment, Hey, Let's Get Better. We're ranked 10th. We're 22-6. We're 3-2 in the Big Ten. I think that's good for 7th right now, but it's way too early to look at possession in the Big Ten. We just got to keep winning series. But we all can agree that we probably haven't played super outstanding baseball for a long stretch. We played a good game Saturday, little defensive errors. Maybe we give up some hits. Maybe we don't compete in the batter's box at times consistently. And we're due for about a 7, 8, 9, 10 game stretch where we just do everything the way we're supposed to be doing. And so one of the things, it's easy to be fanboys and fangirls and just cheer on the Hoosiers and be positive all the time. But real fans also see some points that we think might need to get better. And it doesn't mean that we're not rooting for the guys. So we're going to do a Let's Get Better segment. I'm going to start out. I'd like to stabilize the middle infield. We've rotated some guys in there because of some difficulty in fielding. And I think that your middle defense is very, very important to your overall defense. And we've played a lot of people at second and a variety of people at short. I'd like to see that settle in. And I think Houston and Walker have to be some sort of combination there. And I'm looking forward to stabilizing the middle infield. I think that'll help us get better. Carl, what would you think would help us get better?
Well, I'm going to piggyback off of you since you're talking about trying to stabilize with Houston and Walker, and I'm all for that, provided Houston can close the gap he's got at the plate, because having someone in the lineup consistently hitting under 200 is a problem. And if Houston can, and we know he can because we've seen him do it. We saw him do it, especially at the end of last year, where he can hit on a much more consistent level. So if he can close that 111 point gap that he's got between him and Walker right now, and doesn't have to close it all the way, just a decent amount, so that he can be, especially with Kalitha coming right after him, to be that double leadoff guy that we need in that 9-hole. And I think he's got that capability in him if he can make some improvements there.
And I would second that. I agree. Also, if you're not hitting, move runners. And I think that he struggled bunting the ball at times too. And so in order to get back in the lineup, you got to play all facets of the game. And so, yes, I'd like to see that get better. And that's the area that he's going to have to get better. Chris, what's your let's get better idea for the Hoosiers?
Run support for Stever. Again, we're 22-6. We're undefeated on Saturday tailgates. We're undefeated in Sunday Reds. But let's get Johnny some runs. I understand we're going up against their aces whenever he pitches. I get that. You know, I know how this works. But I don't know, whatever, something, maybe change up the meal. Maybe Roger could change the mojo up, do something different. Whatever they actually do on Saturday, do it on Friday. I don't know what it would take, but mix it up a little bit. And let's come out Friday night at the bar. You know, it's fireworks night, right? Let's have some fireworks during the game and then the fireworks after the game and give this kid some runs. He deserves it. He's really been pitching well lately.
I agree with that. I think the Friday night starter has given us fits over the last 2 years. Carl's been really big on identifying that in the past, and we are going up against a good pitcher, but we're a talented offense. So let's get that done. Josh, your let's get better idea.
Well, I'm going to piggyback Carl, piggybacking you, Brian, and say the infield continuity, shortstop should be Jeremy, I think, if he can close the gap offensively. Walker needs to be playing second base, and I would even go one step further and say that I would like to see, especially the way Scotty Bradley's hitting, I think he needs to be playing first base. Matt's kind of struggled a little bit in the last few weeks offensively. I think if he could move into the DH role and just be able to hit for maybe 3 games, that might be able to right the ship with him being able to concentrate on that. And Scotty's bat's got to be in the lineup, and he plays pretty good first base. So I'd like to see if that could work. And then my other one's going to be, which we saw better of it this weekend, better situational execution. We've struggled with that. It seems like almost all year. This weekend wasn't too bad. We had 9 sacrifice hits, bunts, sacrifice flies between Sunday, Saturday, and Friday. 3 Sunday, 2 Saturday, and 4 Friday. So that's something we could work on too. But at least for this weekend, it wasn't too bad.
Josh, I think you bring up an interesting point, and Coach Lamonis said so in a post-game interview, that it's sometimes hard to manage a team with this much depth. I mean, I think Dunham was 3 for 4 in his limited work this weekend. He started Sunday, I believe, and got a couple hits, had a pinch hit in one of the previous games. And you got Scotty Bradley, who the last 2 weekends just hitting the cover off the ball. And you have 3 guys who are really first basemen in Lloyd, Bradley, and Dunham, and DH. And if you get a left-hander in there, they're all 3 batting left-hander. You know, you got a guy like Drew Ashley that they like to DH from the right side. So that's not easy to do, to keep everyone fresh and ready to go. But I'm with you. I texted my son Sunday. We weren't able to be at the game, and I said Scotty Bradley is quickly becoming one of the favorite Hoosiers because he's just, you know, knocking the snot out of it right now, and he's got to play. Cassie, your let's get better idea.
So mine is less strategy and more just kind of common sense. And I've said this before, I'm sure I'll say it again. We need to stop striking out with runners at third and fewer than 2 outs. And this actually did improve this weekend. It's down to 39% of at-bats from 42% last week. But we only had 7 of those at-bats this weekend. Really not that many. There were a few more plate appearances, sac flies, HBPs that don't count in the at-bats. But just putting the ball moderately deep into the outfield can score you a run, which we saw with those sac flies. But still, those strikeouts can be momentum killers. And unless there's no outs, it makes it so much more difficult to score that runner from third, because just putting the ball into play doesn't necessarily do it. So while this has been moving the right direction of late, it's still something to watch out for.
That's been a big part of my concern all year. I thought we did a better job of it this weekend, moving runners and doing stuff. In fact, we had a sacrifice line drive with Gorski on third.
Yes.
That was an incredible play. So if Gorski's on third, all you got to do is get it to the backside of the infield, and he'll just run in and score.
Yeah.
He's as fast as I am when I run upstairs to grab a sandwich. I mean, it's amazing speed. That's the only time I have speed. When he's on a base pass, he's super quick. Excellent. Yeah. Carl, Let's come to you for an RPI update, since that's really important, and it's getting more important as the season goes on and those numbers are starting to solidify a little bit.
Yep.
What do you have for us RPI-wise?
Well, the real time is solidifying. We didn't really see a whole lot of movement. We're sitting right around the 20 range, and then a 2-1 weekend at home. That's about what you would expect against a good team, and that team up north has been winning games, so they qualify as far as the RPI is concerned as a good team. And actually, the D1 guys are doing their podcast. They actually, when they talked about Indiana's rank, they spent more time talking about the team up north in regards to how much they've improved. So again, we always kind of get skipped over. So that's just how it goes. But I guess as Chris said earlier, that offline, that's actually probably a good thing for us at the moment. Just kind of flying under the radar, keeping that that high national rank and moving along. But when it comes to the actual RPI, there was a little bit, from a mathematical perspective, some troubling numbers. Particularly the opponent win percentage went from above 53% to below 52% in 6 days, and that was a pretty significant drop. And it also dropped below the entire this set of teams, and I mean this is I'm taking the entire schedule for Indiana over the course of this year, including the teams Indiana has yet to play yet. When I take all of those for 2018 compared to 2017, for the first time, 2018 is actually a lower percentage than 2017. And because of that, it drops the year-end model from that I have, which of course is a prediction model, from finishing at a rank of 18 to finishing at a rank of 27. And at a rank of 27, the argument towards hosting is a lot more difficult. But again, this is a prediction model, and it could just be that we're in a particularly tough set of games that these teams have within their conferences, and perhaps their easier games or their better performance is going to come, and hopefully will come, because these teams were raking in February, but just seem to almost all be struggling right now. There is another piece of this, and that is the Big Ten Conference itself, which you wouldn't necessarily think because, well, it's the conference, it's a set schedule. Well, but of course, every team only plays 8 of the other 12 teams. And this has been a dramatic shift. And I keep, and in fact, it's shifting almost on a weekly basis. And I've been trying to run a strength of schedule comparison for the league, and I've come up with now that Nebraska and Northwestern all of a sudden have the toughest schedules in the league. Indiana's actually dropped down quite a bit in strength of schedule. Now that's good towards getting a league championship, but it's going to hurt on the RPI end. And of course, Indiana needs both. Needs a good RPI and a league championship. The team that has it easy now is now the team leading the league, which is Michigan, who has seemingly come out of nowhere, won 15 straight games, and is leading the league with a 6-0 record. Now, obviously, they have done that because they have swept Michigan State, and they have swept Northwestern. And they still have Penn State left, so they've got the full run of the bottom of the conference. But given that they still have 3 games with Penn State left, and they don't play Indiana, they've got a really solid road that could take them to a league championship. I then ran another model that I have to try to figure out what the final, and it's the final prediction is pretty much like it's been a couple of the last years, which is that my final prediction has 4 teams within a game of each other. Iowa and Indiana tied for the league title at 17-6. Michigan a half game behind at 17-7. Oh, I'm sorry, and then Minnesota a game behind Michigan at 16-8. And of course, this all can change because it's been changing, but these numbers look kind of on par with where the wins and losses have fallen out in past years, just with some different teams mixing in there. Although I guess Michigan finished third last year, so that's not off the path. But Michigan is a much younger team. Although their coach has been bragging that while they're not as experienced, they may in fact be more talented. And it might be very interesting if Indiana does face Michigan in the Big Ten tournament to see what that might look like. But that's obviously way down the road. But the unbalanced scheduling is going to have a big impact, both from the final RPI finish and trying to get a league title. And obviously Indiana's got to do both. So, there's reasons to root both ways. The biggest thing Indiana can do is just keep winning. And that's also going to have to include, as much as I like to root on 2-1 series wins, I think if Indiana wants to get this title, there's going to have to be 2 or 3 sweeps in the mix. So we're going to have to see the big stretch that Brian was talking about earlier. It's going to have to happen at some point during conference so that a couple of these sweeps can happen. And if we're really wanting to look at a league title.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. So, all right, let's go to I still think that I don't know that we have to win a championship, and I know, Carl, you're the expert on this. I'm a fanboy, and I'm talking right now that I think that if we win every series, and that's still not, go 2-1, and we miss by a game or a half a game, I think they might look at that unbalanced schedule, and then maybe what we do in the Big Ten tournament, if we get to a championship or something, might help that. But our high ranking right now is at least getting us in the mind of the committee, and maybe not for hosting. But, I think we're in a good spot, and I think that's just me rooting for it. I know with my bracketology work exactly what you're talking about. The numbers are the numbers, and as much as you want to root for someone, the numbers sometimes take over. So good work, Carl. We appreciate it. I know our fans really appreciate that. Josh, this is an addition to the script here. Your rib stats update.
Well, I think what we decided to do was Cass was going to take my story of the week, and I was going to do her stats since she had to drive back and get home at midnight. But evidently, Cass still has her stats, so I'm in a really bad spot here because, I just looked over some stuff that I was interested in. But so, Brian, you don't get to chime in here and say, well, I wonder what we're doing with this, and this, because I don't know. I'm not Cass.
Well, give us what you got.
These are just my little points of interest. So I'm doing the stats this week, and Cass can handle the story. But on Sunday, Matt Lloyd had a 23-game on-base streak broken, which being on base 23 straight times safely is just absolutely incredible. And even though the streak was broken, it came in a 5-inning pitch, 5 strikeout, no runs performance, and he got the W, most of those in extra innings. So, he still had a pretty good day, even though that streak was broken.
And you got a limo hat out of it. Come on, you got the limo hat that day.
Well, I'm sure that was a lot more important than the streak or the or the win. I'm sure.
I think his dad really liked it.
Yeah, that's
Mr. Lloyd loves limo hats.
And then one of my other things are the bats that we have that are absolutely on fire. We've got 3 guys right now, which are just raking. Scotty Bradley's past 5 games, 8 of 12 with 6 walks, a hit by pitch, 9 runs, and 2 home runs. So on base 15 of 20 plate appearances with a sacrifice. And during that run, he had 10 consecutive at-bats reach safely. None of those were errors. So walks and hits, 10 straight at-bats. That just blows my mind. And then it's snuck under the radar a little bit. I didn't realize this until I started looking it up. But Justin Walker's last 8 games since he started becoming a regular, most of those are out of the 9-hole. 9 for 26. He's batting .346 with 12 RBIs and 5 sacrifices in the last 8 games, which is when he's moved in to be regular. And again, that's out of the 9 spot. We'll take that, even if we kick it around every once in a while. That'll make up for it. And then my last bet is going to be Ryan Feynman's last 10. This goes into the rib story. If you've been to the BART in the last few weeks or watched the Twitter feed or Instagram, you know what we're talking about there with the rib. His last 10 games, 15 of 32. He's batting .469 with 11 RBI, 6 runs, 2 walks, 2 homers, and 2 doubles. So he's just been incredible with the bat lately. And that's
all starts one day after the rib hit the scoreboard, because the rib hit the scoreboard 11 games prior. So that's starting the day after the rib. That's amazing.
And his dad also has a really big role in that. He's got a good spot up at the rail. And when Ira stands at the rail, we score some runs.
It's the rib. It's not his dad. It's the rib.
He wasn't on the rail, though. He was not on the rail Friday night. So
it's the rib.
Ira, if you're listening, we need you on the rail. But credit really goes to Ryan, because he's the guy who's just smoking the ball all over the place. Josh, I want to personally thank you for bringing up Walker's at-bats, because, boy, that's nice to have in the ninth hole. And he has been responsible for moving runners and for some of our offensive production. The errors are easy to see, especially when it costs us some runs. And there's no doubt he has to play better defensively. But hitting, 333 or in the 330s from the 9-hole spot and being a double leadoff with Superman at the top following, and then, our killer lineup, that has been a nice addition. And I'm guilty of this, and I apologize to all, that you see one play and you get a little upset, or you see 2 or 3 errors and, I'm like, can we catch the ball? But he's hitting the ball, and we can't forget that. I think that's a great story. Next, we're going to turn to Cassie. They've switched up on me a little bit, but here's something.
I had some conference stats too.
Oh, I thought, okay, we're going back to Josh. Captain here. Captain.
No,
you got conference stats? Let's have
just some things that popped out. So these are just 5 games, so small sample size. But as far as conference stats go, Kalitha's batting .429 with an OBP over 500.
It's incredible.
Superman.
So, yeah, over 500 OBP, and then Bradley's hitting .444 with a .615 OBP. Walker's at 400 with 6 RBI. Feynman is at 350, which kind of surprised me that his average wasn't higher than that, but a 409 OBP. And then Drew Ashley off the bench has had some limited run, some pinch hits, DH spot, but in 6 at-bats, he's batting .500, so he's definitely been up to the task. And then defensive
fly.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. Last weekend.
That at-bat was awesome.
Yep, that was good. And then Stever, of course, is leading the pitching. 15 innings pitch, a 1.8 ERA, 5.5 strikeout to walk ratio. And as a team, 48 innings pitched, a 2.25 ERA with a 2.28 batting average. And to go back on what you talked about earlier, Brian, it seems like we're giving up frequently, but 5 of the 17 runs that have been scored in conference play, 5 out of 17, have been unearned. So that's almost a third of the runs we've given up in conference have actually been unearned. So those are kind of costing us. But I'm done now. Go ahead.
All right, captain's got to get his crew to write a little bit more on the script, so the captain knows what's going on here. This is code word for not knowing, but I'll take the heat. I'll take the heat. You guys gave me the C for my limo hat. You guys are doing a great job. Cassie, here's just something. I am just amazed at the work she does. I was watching over her shoulder from the rail, and she had all kinds of different colored pens and stat sheets going, and it's just really nice to be able to get some really good, solid stats. But you're not talking stats this week. You're talking about the story of the week, about your drive and getting to see things in person again. So share with us that story of the week.
Yes. Well, I want to start off with, Josh, it's really easy to have stats when I cherry pick and know exactly what I'm going to talk about tonight and make sure I get those done during my lunch hour. But with this weekend, it's so much fun. I love being at the BART. I miss being there every day, and I'll go through time hop. And in season, there are very few dates that don't have baseball at some point over the last 5 or 6 years. And so scrolling through looking at old tweets from the BART, and I miss it every single time. But this trip, seeing old friends, meeting new ones, it's always fun. Shout out to the Bradley family. They kind of adopted me while I was in school, and even picked up a Yogi's menu for me on the last day they were open, because that was our place to go. And I also want to shout out to Mr. Cross for being like me, and we both went straight to the BART on Friday. That was our first stop in Bloomington, straight into town. And so I got to meet him and talk with him before Friday's game. I love meeting with all the parents, meeting with the fans. It's a fun group, and it makes it all the more enjoyable to be an IU baseball fan. The tailgate was a blast. I was never really a tailgater in school because I ushered the football games, and there just never really was an opportunity to do that. So just having the chance to sit and stand around and chat about Hoosier baseball, and it really does make me feel just a little bit less crazy knowing that there are other fans who are just as passionate as I am. And so that's always reassuring compared to what my coworkers say as I'm going through these scorecards during lunch. And you know what? Watching a 14-1 clobbering of our in-state rival and an extra innings walk-off home run, like, the atmosphere at the park is just spectacular throughout all of this. It's always an emotional week playing that team, and even from a fan perspective. So this was just a fantastic weekend. And I do want to give a last special shout out to Drew he sat next to me for a good 2.5 innings yesterday, learning how to do scorecard. And I love to see when kids are fascinated by the mechanics of the game. And it was awesome talking him through some of the things, the funky numbering of third base being 5 and shortstop being 6, answering his questions as they came up. That was so much fun, and right up until Logan Kalitha's home run, that was my favorite part of the day, was sitting next to him and teaching him some of that stuff. So it really was a blast this weekend, and it makes me miss it even more being back here, but it's always fun being at the BART.
Well, Cassie, it was great to see you and meet you. And again, we admire your work. And, a shout out to Drew. Drew makes us all better. I know Josh doesn't want him to get too big of a head, but the little guy like that shows so much passion, helps a 51-year-old guy, just look forward to the next time I can run around and see him. And introducing young people to the great sport of baseball, Cassie, is a noble thing as a teacher and just as a fan of the sport. There's nothing better than teaching a young person how to keep score. We've all done it. I still do it at times for pro games or college games. It's one of the great things about baseball, and we admire you from afar, and we're glad you made the trip, and we hope that we can see you again sometime shortly. In the meanwhile, we got this great conversation and video where we can see each other and bring all us crazy people together, rooting on Indiana Hoosiers. Cassie, did you have anything else, stats or anything, or did you give them all to Josh?
I think that was pretty much it for now. The thing that struck me as I was putting this together this afternoon, and I had to double check my math on this because I was going through and counting up the pitches from yesterday's game, and we're saying, like, Kalitha saw 24 pitches, Matty Lloyd saw 31 pitches, and I'm getting down to Scotty Bradley. In 6 plate appearances, he saw 9 pitches. And that one struck me as odd. And heck, in game 2, in game 2, Laren Eustace had a 9-pitch walk. He had 1 plate appearance and had as many pitches as Scotty had in 6 in game 3. And sometimes you're just seeing the ball well and aggressive work. So shout out to him on that one.
When the ball looks like a beach ball, you don't need to take pitches. You just go up there and hit the ball out of the park and have everyone call you their favorite player. That's Scotty Bradley. Hey, Chris Feeney, who we playing this week?
All right. We got Indiana State. We went over them already, but just to let you know how they're doing now, they're 16-10 on the season. They're 10-6 on the road, so they're a good road team still. We talked about Romero Harris last time, and we talked about Jared Waffis last time. Those are the better hitters. Something that did come up on Sunday, Ethan Harrison, their closer, their naturally ranked closer. He comes up a lot in publications. He had to throw 4 innings on Sunday, and he actually didn't do too well. They lost 2 out of 3 to Bradley. They had the lead in on Sunday, and Larison actually gave it up. So he pitched 4 innings. I don't think we're going to see him. I don't see how we could, but that's something to look at when we are hopefully not down at the end of the game. I can't see Larison coming in. But and again, the alumni, Larry Bird, it's a short drive, but I don't think he's coming, to be honest with you. So we have that.
Certain kid we can't mention due to his managerial duties.
Yes, that's right.
But
that's right.
He may or may not be
a really good managing staff over there, though.
They have a great managing staff for the basketball program. It's one of the best.
And they stay very warm. They wear very warm winter coats.
They dress appropriately. There's no worries.
They do. It's excellent. It's excellent. So that's pretty much Indiana State. Now we get over to Northwestern. Northwestern is obviously scheduled. I'll do the air quotes, right? Scheduled for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Friday is a 6 p.m. start. Saturday is 1 p.m. And Saturday is 2 p.m. and Sunday is 1 p.m. Northwestern is currently 8-17, and they're 1-8 in the conference, and they're 5-9 on the road. Okay, they just played Michigan at home. Carl touched on it. They got swept. They got outscored 16-3, and 2 of those games were shutouts. So runs seem to be an issue for them. Now, what I did notice, though, their Friday guy, Quinn Lavelle, he has thrown a complete game shutout himself against USA team, Maryland. And he also pitched real well at Texas. So, again, their Friday night guy is capable and has the ability to throw a good game. He's done it, and it's not something that he can't do. He has a 2.75 ERA. Their Sunday guy, Jack Pagliariani, I'm going to go with. Again, I've never heard it said. I think it's Pagliariani. He has a 2.89 ERA, and he's got 43 Ks in 37 innings. So he's a big strikeout guy. Now, as far as the way they play, I looked into some of their stats. Hoosier Baseball has 33 steals on the season. I feel like we run a lot. Like if someone asked me, do we steal a lot? I'd be like, yeah, we steal a lot. Northwestern has 52 steals on the season. So they obviously really run a lot. And they're really good at it. They have 4 guys. They have an Alex Arrow. He's 12 out of 13. And we got Jack Dunn. He's 11 out of 12. Ben Dickey, 7 out of 9. And Charlie Maxwell, 6 out of 8.
Hey, so I'm not sending you a signal, Feeney. I'm sending – this is the Feynman, Dikembe Mutombo.
You know what I thought for a minute is that no one could hear me. I'll be
no.
I
know. That's why I stopped. No one runs on us. No one runs on us.
I kept rolling, but I had a feeling no one could hear me.
No, you're
I know
fine.
My voice is a little different this podcast, but there's a reason.
I'm sorry.
I offered you honey and tea, by the way.
Yeah, I went with Red Bull instead.
Good choice.
Yeah. So these guys are a running team, like I said, and they're really good at it. So, they've only been caught. I think I added it up. It's like 52 out of like 63. So they're going to be running all weekend. Okay. This is how they move. This is how they get on base. This is how they do their thing because they don't have power guys. They have only 2 guys that have more than 4 home runs. They have 1 guy with 5 and 1 guy with 4. That's Willie Barton and Jack Clays. I think that's how you pronounce it. So, it's a different team than we're used to. They're going to be all over the base pass. They'll probably run those little league plays that are real popular these days against us that never seem to work. And I don't understand why teams keep running them. But, go ahead. And Feynman will keep nabbing guys at the plate. Something also to notice, they have 5 different guys on the pitching staff that have at least 1 pickoff. So we'll keep an eye out, make sure they're not balking or anything. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know. 5 different guys that have picked someone off. I feel like that's a lot. I don't know if they're cheating, but I'll keep an eye on it. I think we all should. And as far as alumni, one of my favorite shows. I know I said that last time with The Wire, but this is another one of my favorite shows, Seinfeld. Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Elaine, is alumni of Northwestern, so she might be dancing in the crowd. I don't know, doing the Elaine dance. We'll see. Also, Warren Beatty and Mike Greenberg from Mike and Mike. I don't think he's going to come, but you never know. Connecticut's kind of far away. You never know who could show up.
Should have had him as a guest on the podcast.
We should have, but you know what? I don't think we could because his show is tanking right now. The ratings for Peppa Pig are better than the new morning ESPN show. So I don't think he wants anything to do with publicity right now.
Peppa Pig?
Peppa Pig is outdrawing ratings than this wake-up show that he's running, which is hysterical to me. Another thing to mention, though, for the weekend, Friday is fireworks night. All right, I know that's one of my favorite promotions. And again, hopefully we have fireworks during the game also. Saturday, another one of my favorite promotions, baseball cards. 1,000 fans, the first 1,000 fans will get the baseball cards of the guys. It's good for autographs or, for anything, really. You can frame them. They come usually in a full sheet. You can break them up and make them actual baseball cards. And then Sunday, it looks like – I've never seen this before. I know I saw a Kyle Schwarber poster once, but they're calling this like a Hoosier Pro IU alumni poster. So I don't know. Maybe it'll be more than one guy on there. Maybe it'll be like a collage of, because we have a lot of guys out there in the majors right now. So that'd be pretty cool. You never know what kind of promotions might come your way. So don't expect one thing. So that's pretty much what I have for the weekend. And let's hope the weather works out. If the weather does change, stay in touch. Look on Twitter or Facebook or whatever the case. We'll try to, let you know what the changes are. I heard there might be some wet weather on one of the days.
Very good. That's who we got coming up this week on the Indiana baseball slate. It's now time for our final thoughts. We've been here for a while. We're happy people when we win, and we talk a lot. So we're going to wrap this up. Cassie, your final thoughts for the week.
Oh, just what a fun week it was. Being back in the BART is great. I encourage everyone to get out there, even when it's cold. It's still fun. We're all in it together. And so I'm hoping to see this team put all of their pieces together over the next couple of weeks and be ready for some good end of season closeout play.
Very good. Carl, your final thoughts.
There was a point on Sunday, we were down 5-1, and I'll tell you what, I was completely relaxed. I knew this team was coming back. It was Sunday. We weren't going to get beaten the Sunday Reds. We were not. This team was going to find a way to come back, and they did, and it was fun. So,
Carl, you are a better man than I am.
Your daughter was very relaxed too.
I was not relaxed.
Friday was a totally different situation. I couldn't get to go to the game. I had to watch it on StatCast. I was a nervous wreck. So it's not always the case.
So, but Carl, you're awesome, man. That's Josh. Your final thoughts.
Yeah, what Chris had said a minute ago. Keep an eye on the scheduling. We may be in for some changes here, which will probably affect our Saturday tailgate because it doesn't look good for that going on. But check out at IU Base 17 on Twitter and our other outlets. And then I hope we can keep up the momentum. That was an emotional weekend. Keep the winning streak, especially it's baseball, but this is time to take care of business on teams we should take care of business with. And then I want to thank Cass for being patient with Drew and teaching him the book. I wanted him to learn from the two masters. You just started off, and then I know Carl is really good at books. So since you're over there, I'm gonna let him piggyback off of Carl, if you don't mind, Carl.
Of course.
Not at all, but I'm hoping not to confuse him because Cass and I are a little different in how we do it.
No, I told her no highlighters with Drew anyway. So
okay.
No, just
I don't
simple.
understand that highlighting stuff.
But anyway, thank you very much, Cass. Good to meet you.
Oh, no
face-to-face.
problem.
Our tailgates on Saturday are really a lot of fun. We're the red and white canopy, close to the home plate entry walkway. Stop by and see us. Don't be shy. We have some good food, and Feeney really loves our chairs.
Really
so you can come.
Chairs. They're excellent.
Really good chairs. He puts in a promo, but the whole purpose is there is to get to know all the IU baseball fans. And as you're headed into the BART, if you'd like a cold drink or a quick sandwich or something, and as the weather gets better, hopefully we get some warm weather, plan to come an hour or two early and join us for some good fellowship between IU fans. This week, it looks like right now rain is forecast for Saturday and Sunday, so maybe a doubleheader on Friday. Be watching the Twitter feeds, and we will let you know if the tailgate is going to go on. We hope it is. There is a spring football game on that Saturday, so I might be tailgating even with no baseball game. It's something about me in a parking lot. I kind of like being there. So, Chris, your final thoughts on a pretty successful week?
Just definitely great seeing Cassie. This is the second weekend she's come down. 2 years in a row, we get some amazing games. Last year we get Didalo in the rain. This year we get Kalita for walk it off against those other guys. It was great to see you, and I look forward to seeing you hopefully in June if it works out, whatever the case might be. When I got out here, I didn't know a lot of people. You know what I mean? And you guys and the Bradleys and a couple of others, and it was to be able to punch in and plug in and get to meet people and stuff. And a baseball field is an easy way to meet people, but it doesn't have to be. I mean, you guys are real welcoming. I appreciate it. And it is too bad we can't go to Yogi's again. We had some good times, except for that damn Vanderbilt. But besides that guy, it was great to see you. And listen, the Cassie weekend is like a can't miss now with Didalo in the rain and now this. Excellent stuff. It was great seeing you. Hopefully June we'll catch up with you.
Yeah, and Cassie, it was an honor meeting you and seeing you do your stuff as a statistician in the crowd. It was we're all superstitious. We're up by the rail most of the time. I moved down to right field to try to break the jinx. I don't know that it worked at all. I give IU credit. I did have an interesting conversation with that other team's right fielder. It was some really good banter. He got me a few times, and I got him back, and then I decided to leave him alone after the fourth inning. But final thoughts is you IU baseball fans need to be more like Carl and less like Brian. Brian doesn't like that team up north at all. And when we lose Friday and kick it around, I was not a happy guy. And then I got nervous Saturday, and then I got nervous again Sunday. And you know what? This team has showed us they are resilient, and we need to be more like Carl and just let the game take place and win or lose. It is Indiana University. It is baseball at the BART. It is good people, and we need to remember that. If that's fanboyish, so be it. I'm guilty. That's just how we roll. We have a good group here, and we have a good team to follow. So make sure you try to make it to the BART 4 opportunities this week. We'd love to see you. So that'll do it for Talking Hoosier Baseball. Please find all future podcasts on Sports Talk with Tonsoni, which can be found on your favorite podcast source, as well as under the Talking Hoosier Baseball tab on iubase.com. And speaking of iubase.com, follow them on Twitter. Their handle is at iubase17. Follow this podcast at See You at the BART on Twitter, and visit iubase.com for articles and other information from this excellent group of people. So for the gang, I'm Brian Tonsoni. Go Hoosiers. See you at the BART.